Hi, everybody. Josh Byerly here inside Mission Control. I'm joined again by Bruce Manners, who is a project executive for NASA's Commercial Orbital Transportation Services Program, or COTS as we like to call it. Now, COTS, we've talked about several times here on NASA television. You see the result of that work right now on board the International Space Station, with SpaceX being currently docked and delivering quite a bit of supplies to the space station. Orbital Sciences is the other company that is working to provide cargo capability to the space station. Bruce works very closely with them, so we thought we'd get Bruce to give us an update on exactly how Orbital is doing and what's ahead over the next couple of months for the company.
We're at a real exciting time in the program right now. We've got a lot of hardware that's stacked up. We're completed the pad at Wallops Flight Facility where they're going to be launching the Antares rocket from. That pad is now finished to the point where they've been able to hand it over to Orbital so they can roll out their first stage vehicle to do a stage one hot fire test on the pad. So Orbital right now, they've got that test vehicle on the pad. They're getting ready to start doing some cold flow tests where we start flowing fuel to the vehicle. That'll check out all the systems for both the vehicle and also the pad and the ground ops and all that. And then ultimately, in about a month or so, once they initiate the cold flow test, we're expecting in about a month after that, we would do a hot fire, stage one hot fire on the pad, which will be a really excellent test to validate the design of the first stage of the vehicle. That'll be the first time they've fired two engines at once, and we think it'll be a real good test to demonstrate both the ground ops and also the flight systems.
Let's talk about Wallops for a second, because I think a lot of people don't realize there's a big difference. You know, SpaceX uses Cape Canaveral, which everybody's heard of. You know, it's on the Air Force side. It's not technically Kennedy Space Center, but it's on the Air Force side. They've got their pad down there. Orbital decided to go a different direction. They're going up to Wallops, which will give us, it's an important thing because it gives us a different spaceport up there on the East Coast. But that's actually a NASA facility that they're sort of, talk about the arrangement. It's sort of a different setup.
It is a very different setup. They decided to fly from Wallops in Virginia. That gave them a couple of different advantages in their mind, and I think that those have largely panned out. First of all, it's geographically very close to their main offices, and gives them
they're in Dulles.
They're in Dulles, Virginia.
Right.
So it's very simple and easy for them to transport their spacecraft from over to the flight facility, and then also it gives them an opportunity to open up a new range for a mid-sized launch vehicle. And they felt that they would have, better relation. They have find a good relationship with Wallops for that sort of purpose, and it's worked out pretty well for them. It's a big stretch for Wallops and MAR, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, which is actually a state of Virginia entity. The pad in the partnering arrangement there is unique. The pad is actually, it sits on NASA ground at Wallops, NASA Wallops, but it's actually a state-owned and operated launch pad put together by the state of Virginia under the auspices of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, or MARS.
Right. So basically what's happening is you've got this land that's at Wallops that is managed by Mars, like you talked about. They've been working over the past several months to get the pad ready. They finally handed it over to Orbital, basically said, okay, here you go. Now you can go ahead and roll your rocket out there and start ground processing, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about, they've got a test flight coming up, hopefully by the end of the year, where they're going to test actually Antares, which is the rocket. And then coming up in the spring of 2013, that's when they're going to fly a flight sort of similar to what SpaceX did, where they go up to the station, do these demonstration maneuvers, and do checkouts, right? Yes.
If you look at the overall program of the demonstration that they're going to be executing, it's similar in a lot of ways to what SpaceX already has executed. In December, we're hoping to do the as you said, a test of the Antares launch vehicle. It'll be a full-up test. It'll be a full-up Antares. It'll be very similar to what SpaceX had done for a couple of times previously, once under COTS and once independently, their maiden flight. But it will be a full-up demonstration of the launch vehicle. They'll actually launch a payload mass simulator that's the same size and mold line and mass characteristics as the Cygnus spacecraft, and put that into orbit around and also they're going to launch a couple of secondary payloads that they have. But it'll be a full-up test of the launch vehicle. And we should show that systems all check out and work out properly. Assuming success there, then they've also independently been putting together the next launch vehicle. It's largely in good shape. They've got all the pieces at Wallops for it already, and then they also have the full Cygnus spacecraft. And so in the early first quarter, early second quarter of next year, they're hoping to do their full-up mission to the International Space Station, where they would demonstrate delivering cargo to the International Space Station.
Talk about, there was I guess, sort of a strategic choice that was made by Orbital versus SpaceX. SpaceX can return things back to Earth. We need that capability to bring things back. Orbital decided to go along the lines of what HTV, ATV, and Progress do, which is to burn up in the atmosphere. But that's beneficial too, because obviously you've got to, you can imagine not taking the trash out at your house over 6 months. It would get a little cluttered, so it's important to actually get stuff off the station and to send it back. What are the benefits of that? I mean, it sort of simplifies the spacecraft design a bit, right?
It simplified the spacecraft design for them. I think Orbital decided early on that they wanted to get more involved with manned spaceflight. They didn't want to make a huge leap into developing a full-up returnable vehicle. They have a lot of experience in commercial spacecraft and in launch vehicles for smaller launch vehicles like their Pegasus and Minotaur launch vehicles. So this seemed to be to them, and I think it is a good marriage of it was a stretch goal for them to get into manned spaceflight and develop to be delivering cargo to the International Space Station, but not a huge reach to where they were also developing a vehicle that would return.
Right. So, I was up there, I guess, a few weeks ago, and I was actually am very impressed to see they've actually got all these Cygnus vehicles that are just in different stages of being built. I mean, they're very, very far along with it. It's very cool to see that.
Yes, they've at this point they're really into a production mode on those spacecraft.
Yeah.
They have we have the spacecraft for the demonstration mission is pretty much, I would say, finished with all its development and hardware testing. They're going through some risk reduction activities right now. They also have following right along their first mission or vehicle that they used that will be used for their CRS mission, their first actual cargo delivery to the space station. It's largely finished as well and sitting, waiting, finishing up its integration tests, and they really have gotten into a production mode. And if you go there, as you said, you can see various vehicles in flow and in production, just as you would go if you were to go to a Ford plant and see a number of cars in production. At the beginning, there's stuff that looks like lots of different pieces, and at the end, there's a spacecraft.
Yeah. Let's talk about how you work with the company. We spent a lot of time talking with Mike Horkachuk, who's your counterpart that worked with SpaceX as part of the COTS program, and he talked about some of the lessons learned. Sort of finding this new path, working with these commercial companies. How closely have you been talking to him, and sort of what they learned, lessons learned, working with SpaceX, and now seeing the flight up there that's on board the space station now? How closely have you worked with him?
We worked quite closely. We talked. He was just down the hallway from me in the office, and so we did talk quite a bit about what the experiences they were having. We just were able to sit down and talk with Orbital to give them some direct lessons learned that we all had picked up from the first mission from SpaceX that reinforced some of the things that we were already doing, like simulating and doing lots of sims with the operations teams, and we were able to roll lots of lessons learned into what we're doing here.
Yeah. Do you look at the SpaceX mission now and you see the spacecraft that's up there actually, attached to the space station and go, okay, this is about to become very real. It's getting pretty close.
Absolutely. We did start a long time after. We started 2 years after SpaceX.
That's right, because SpaceX started in 2006. You guys started in 2008.
Yes,
right?
they had a 2-year head start on us.
Yeah.
So seeing them now delivering their first cargo to the space station under the CRS contract, it really is inspiring for us to realize where we're going to end up, and also how far we've come. With starting 2 years after them, and really now ending 6 months or a year after they completed up. I feel like we made a lot of ground up.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, thanks a lot for coming along. Of course, we'll pay close attention as Orbital continues to move toward this test flight coming up toward the end of the year, and the flight up to the space station in the spring of 2013, which is not that far away. As these months seem to go by pretty quickly, don't they?
Yes, they do. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for my opportunity.
So if you want to find out the latest about Orbital, we have a new link set up on the NASA website. Just go to www.nasa.gov/orbital. Once again, it's www.nasa.gov/orbital.